Okay. I think we can kick things off. We've given people 5 minutes after our initial starting time. So I would like to officially welcome you to CSOS presentation hosted by YIPA. I'm Luciba Mogo from YIPA, the Youth in Property Association, who believe in empowering the youth in property. And I'm glad to bring you CSOS today, who lines up with one of our objectives, which is to one of the objectives of the organization is based on the principles of transformation as the best method for a more diverse property sector. CSOS is here today to introduce themselves to YIPA's members and the youth in general. And I won't say too much about them, I'll leave that to them. But I do want to quickly run over some rules as I have highlighted while we were waiting. During the webinar, we asked you, our spectators, to please keep your mics and videos switched off to keep the streaming smooth. We also encourage you guys to put in your questions as the speakers are speaking in the chat box, which we will use at the end of the session for the Q&A session. So without further ado, we have some esteemed guests today, the Chief Ombud Advocate Boyce Mkhize and the Governance Manager Johlene Wasserman. I'll give you a quick introduction of Advocate Boyce Mkhize, who is going to be our keynote speaker and touch on CSOS transformations, CSOS's transformations agenda, and who will eventually pass on to Johlene, who will touch on or elaborate on CSOS's programs. So since from the 1st of April 2021, Advocate Boyce Mkhize was appointed as the Chief Ombud for the Community Schemes Ombud Service. He has more than 17 years of progressive experience in the public and private sector, including senior executive leadership roles at CEO level. Mkhize led the transformation of the Health Professions Council of South Africa as CEO and registrar for a period of 10 years. He is a seasoned legal practitioner who used to run his own legal and forensic audit practice. Prior to this, he had also headed 3 public entities as CEO. In these roles, he drove organizational development and turnaround strategies. As National Nuclear Regulator CEO, he drove the implementation of the Nuclear Energy Strategy. Amongst one of his leadership tenures, he also led a development finance institution, Mpumalanga Economic Growth Agency, and got to appreciate the diverse challenges of managing emerging businesses. Advocate Mkhize continues to thrive as an excellent leader and transformation champion in all the sectors he has impacted in the years and continues to do so in the property sector. I'm glad and honored to pass on to him. Thank you, Advocate.
Thank you very much, Luciba. I'm not sure if you can hear me well. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you. You are very audible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just going to try and see if I could share this presentation. Now, I must confess, this is the first time I use this. Let me just see. Channel. Just give me a second while I'm trying to get this thing to share. I'm not sure. Can you see my presentation on the other side?
Hi, Advocate. Just go back to the PowerPoint. It's more clearer there.
Can you see
Yes.
it now?
Yes, perfect. And then you can click on the presentation option. There we go. It's clear now.
Yeah, okay, you can see it, right?
Yes, clearly.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity and for that kind and warm introduction. It's a great pleasure for me to join up with YIPA this evening. I think that it's important that we express our appreciation for the relationship that we have built over time now, and which we continue to value, and we will work towards consolidating it even further as we go forward. So what I thought I would share today, just at a high level, are some of the measures that we have put in place to try and drive and contribute towards the transformation of the property industry. In South Africa, you know that the industry is quite vast and wide, and it's got a number of areas and elements and legs that inform the kind of areas of focus. We, as the CSOS, have to contribute towards the transformation of the industry within the context of what our mandate dictates in terms of the CSOS Act. And so what we will present and share with you is within the context of what the mandate of the CSOS prescribes in terms of the CSOS Act. I must say that this area subject that we're talking about in terms of transformation is a subject that is more often than not a subject of just talk and further talk without much advancements being registered. I'm a pragmatic person, and I believe in actual practical implementation of issues. We sitting, I think, at about 5.8 trillion in terms of the property value in South Africa. Of that, and only a fraction, which does not even account for 1%, is in the hands of Black people. And I don't talk about women, I don't talk about young people. We're talking about Black people in general. So that basically gives you a sense of who are the captains of the property industry, who are in control of the property industry. And therefore, a lot of work needs to be done, and we need to be deliberate about it. Now, coming to the CSOS mandate, just an overview for those that may not be too familiar with the CSOS. We're a public entity that's established in terms of an Act of Parliament 2011. We came on stream around 2013, and we've been operational since then. We are established to regulate the conduct of parties within community schemes and to ensure good governance. We are listed as a Schedule 3A Public Finance Management Act entity under the National Department of Human Settlements. So we are a state-owned entity, and we report through the Ministry of Human Settlements to Parliament. We, of course, have an interest in removing practices and perceptions of unfair and corrupt activities in scheme governance bodies that have sort of tarnished the image of the governance around the management of the schemes, and also tarnished communal property living as an attractive tenure option. And of course, also discouraged ownership sometimes, or to some degree, to these areas. What are the ministerial priorities for 2022-23 financial year? The priorities that have been determined by the minister, and of course also acceded to by the CSOS, are threefold. Essentially, the minister is concerned about issues of procurement, where do we spend? Where do we spend in terms of procurement? Who are the bodies, who are the entities that we spend on? So the spend on designated groups is targeted to be at 40% during this financial year. And I'm gonna just explain a little bit more in terms of that, because that's one area of possible engagements and collaboration we could look into. Then there's aspects around job creation and integrated human settlement plans. These are the key strategic priorities that have been identified by the Minister for 2022 and which are in fact also expressed in our strategic planning and strategy documents. And I'll touch a bit on each of these areas. So you would see that in terms of our annual performance plan, we have a target that has been set for us under outcome 5, and that target is that of transformation of community schemes that ought to be advanced. And part of that is the spend on procurement. So the target for this year is for us to procure at least up to 40%. In fact, not up to 40%, but 40% minimum on businesses that are owned by women. And I'm certain that within YIPA, we've got women formations, etc. That is what we are looking at. This is now in terms of just general procurement of the CSOS. The second target is, excuse me, percentage procurement spend on businesses that are owned by young people, the youth, and this is where YIPA comes in. The target there is a minimum of 20%. So we must demonstrate by the end of the financial year, March 2023, that in terms of our procurement spend, we have actually spent at least 20% on businesses that are owned and operated by young people. And that's where YIPA also comes in terms of our general procurement spend. The last area around procurement spend targets is the spending on businesses that are owned by people with disabilities. And the target there is to actually spend up to, in fact, a minimum of 5%. And we need to demonstrate that as at the end of the financial year, we have in fact procured from businesses that are owned or operated by persons with disabilities. So that basically accounts for a whopping 65% in terms of procurement targets, targeting your traditionally historically disadvantaged entities and groupings. While on the issue of transformation, stepping off the issue of procurement, we have had to look into the area of transformation and advancement of the transformation of the sector from the context of what our mandate dictates. Now, you may be aware that the CSOS is entrusted with the responsibility of implementing the obligations that are set out in the CSOS Act, but also obligations and responsibilities that are outlined in the sectional title Schemes Management Act. Now, part of the responsibilities that are outlined there is the responsibility to appoint executive managing agents for those community schemes that perhaps may not be able to appoint executive managing agents via special resolution. An executive managing agent means a qualified managing agent with the required skill and experience appointed to carry out the functions and powers of the trustees of a body corporate. So each scheme would have a body corporate, and of course, they would then appoint what is called a board of trustees, which consists of skilled individuals in the various areas of governance. Now, sometimes it happens that the schemes are not able to actually effect those particular appointments, Sometimes the schemes are placed under administration, and the CSOS is then approached to actually appoint the executive managing agents. This is where we come in terms of saying the executive managing agents that have been appointed up to thus far reflect only a particular racial grouping within the context of South Africa. And what is notable about that is that you don't have people from historically disadvantaged communities, and in particular Black Africans. You don't have women, you don't have young people, you don't have people with disabilities that actually operate in this space as executive managing agents. These people have got power in terms of the control and the development of the schemes and governance, because they have to look into issues of ensuring that the schemes convene the AGMs appropriately, that the resolutions are taken in accordance with the governance documents, the MOIs or whatever, and the HOAs, etc. So these things are taken care of, that the levies are collected, that there is maintenance and upkeep, that there is insurance, that there is security and appropriate safeguards around the common properties, etc., etc. So it's quite a vast responsibility, and of course financial management, which takes quite an important and significant part of this. So what did we do in order to try and infuse color and diversity into the existing cohort of executive managing agents? We set out on a path to actually recruit what we refer to as transformed or historically disadvantaged executive managing agents. We issued out a public call that resulted in us appointing 23 Black executive managing agents that also consists of women, consists to some degree of young people. The panel is still growing, and we are hoping that we can have more of young people coming into the scheme of things, so that we are able to actually also advance that cause of transformation in that space. So the engagements have been held with managing agents. These are established now executive managing agents, to provide a platform where they can mentor, they can develop, they can provide internship, incubation to historically disadvantaged managing agents. And I'm very happy to advise that we have signed MOUs now with Preto, with the Preto Group, with Trafalgar, and with Mid-City. Just this week, we had our signing ceremonies with Trafalgar and Mid-City. Preto was done about a couple of weeks back. And this is an indicator of the collaboration that we have established and we want to establish going forward, where those that are emerging within the scheme of things can actually be shown the ropes, they can be supported. These guys have got well-evolved systems and matured systems for governance of the schemes. And we think that this will actually augur well for some kind of partnerships in terms of these issues. So tied to this is our initiative to actually create what we call a transformation fund for the CSOS. This is still underway because we're still engaged in engagements or discussions with the National Treasury on the funding aspects. But what we're looking to do with that fund, once approved in totality by National Treasury, is that it should enable us to provide some startup capital to emerging managing agents of color, and in this context also that are actually operated by young people or persons with disabilities. We are looking into Fidelity Fund, bridging group cover, where this may actually become necessary to enable those particular schemes that are emerging to actually thrive and operate. We're looking into an incentive scheme that might incentivize those established schemes for the work that they are going to be putting into the development aspects of the emerging schemes. So, as I've said, we're looking into internships and learnerships programs for the HDI, that's your historically disadvantaged agents. We're looking into subcontracting opportunities to scheme management work around issues of maintenance, security, levy collections, and governance. We're looking into enterprise development initiatives. And of course, there's a huge opportunity around management of government properties offered through the Public Works Program, and to make sure that these properties are in fact brought to the same level as your private schemes, because there isn't much attention that is actually given to the public schemes. And these are schemes that are created and established at great cost to government. So we want to also, while doing this, also deploy some of our managing agents into developing the public schemes in this regard. I've already touched on this slide there in terms of what we are looking into. So the nuts and bolts of what we basically are saying is that there's scope for engagement, there's scope for collaboration. We are very glad that we have YIPA as one of our associates. We need to continue the conversations and the engagements. We need to see what sort of formations are there within YIPA and what interests YIPA has and those formations have with regards to the type of work that we're doing around governance. It's an area that historically disadvantaged individuals have not really participated in. If you talk about schemes management, it's an area that has been completely white to a great degree. Your historically disadvantaged individuals generally operate within the sphere of just managing rentals of properties and sales, etc., etc. But the issues around schemes governance and schemes management are issues that have really been an exclusive preserve of particular racial groupings. We want to diversify that. We want to make sure that within the context of what we are mandated to do, we actually provide real and practical economic opportunities, not just for Black-owned entities, but also for young or young people-owned entities, and that's where YIPA comes in. So we trust that we can consolidate on this and we can work together in championing the cause of transformation in the industry. I'll pause there, Chair, and thank you for your attention. And if there's any issues of engagement, we'll be glad to take any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Advocate. I would say let's hold the questions for after Ms. Wasserman gives us her talk, and so we can just keep it all nice and neat into one Q&A session. So I would pass on the mic to Johlene. Are you fantastic?
Thank you very much, Luciba. I trust that everybody can hear me. Welcome. It's an honor to be at YIPA. We, as the CSOS, have discovered, and I use the word discovered, as we discovered YIPA through the MoneyWeb interview they had with which you guys have with MoneyWeb on Twitter. And I remember we've been so excited and we advised Advocate Mkhize. We found this young company that's a Black young company in the property industry. And I was so excited about that. I couldn't contain myself. And finally, we are here and we are actually in partnership with YIPA, and we're looking forward to many more engagements. So thank you for inviting us, Luciba and team. We really appreciate it. As Advocate was saying, we're passionate about transformation. If you would like to know more about any of our executive managing agents, the path to becoming an executive managing agent, what are the requirements, etc., please do not hesitate to contact us. We will gladly assist you. I'm going to thank you. I see Duli, thank you. You have flighted my presentation. Is there a way that I can control it from my side, if I may ask?
Not at all, Johlene,
Okay.
but you can indicate if I'm maybe moving on too fast or.
All right, super.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Duli. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like today, can you just pass on to Eric? Could you just go through the slides, Duli, to where it says area of focus? Because Advocate did speak about who we are, our mandate, so I'm not going to repeat it. Our legislative provisions, the Advocate touched on. The area of this focus is what I'm going to advise you of tonight. This is what we are all about, and this is what we can assist community schemes with. First and foremost, all our services at the CSOS is free of charge. You do not pay for anything other than your CSOS levy, and we're going to go through the types of schemes. If you perhaps live in a community scheme, whether you're a member or if you're an occupier or a tenant, we can assist you, and we're going to tell you how we add value to the community at the end of the day. So first and foremost, all community schemes needs to register with the CSOS, and all the processes I'm mentioning is free of charge. Then a community scheme must lodge their annual returns to the CSOS. We have a world-class dispute resolution service, and I'm going to go in depth into that later on. We have what we call Section 6.9 resolutions. If you live in a sectional title scheme and you would like to pass a resolution and your body corporate can't pass it, you come to the CSOS to pass it. We have waivers. You can waive your CSOS levies entirely. There's categories for it. If you're on SASSA, if you earn below 5,500 Rand, if your levies is below 500 Rand, or if you're in frail or mid-care, we waive your CSOS levies. We issue what Advocate spoke about, ensuring good governance. We do scheme governance, and all sectional title developments needs to register their conduct rules with the CSOS. And then we issue a Section 10 certificate. We do nationwide training. I'm currently in the beautiful city of Mossel Bay, where we will be training tomorrow and in George on Saturday. So if you are in the area, please pop in. If you would like details about it, if you've not received the invite, please just pop me an email. We provide training, general educations on the rights of obligations of any person living within a community scheme. We offer it to managing agents, interested parties, anyone really. Next slide, please. What is a community scheme? There's 5 types of community schemes that the CSOS is mandated to manage. It is sectional title developments, share block companies, house and property owners associations, housing schemes for retired persons, and housing cooperatives. Next slide, please. And this is all our practice directives that we currently have. So for each and every process at the CSOS, we have a practice directive. So it's our so-called standard operating procedures. So if you would lodge a dispute, there's a dispute resolution practice directive. If you would like to submit your rules to the CSOS, we call it the amendment of rules practice directive, and so forth. So you can go through all of this. I'll make this presentation available. I'm sure it is with YIPA. YIPA can share it with you. There's no problem at all. And then we have a form for every process at the CSOS, and there is our applicable forms. I'm not going to go through it. If you don't remember any form, you can refer back to this document and you can just submit it. And there's always a dedicated email attached to the form. Here's the email addresses. You can just refer back to it. Each and every process has got its own form, practice directive, and email address. Next slide. Here's our dispute resolution. Should you feel that there is no other alternative and you have remedied all your internal mechanisms, you can lodge a dispute at the CSOS. There is 3 offices. It's the Gauteng, the KZN, and the Western Cape. Gauteng, Ombud, is also responsible for Limpopo and Northwest. KZN Ombud is responsible for the Free State and Mpumalanga, and the Western Cape Ombud is responsible for all the Cape provinces. You complete this form, you send it in to us, and it will go straight to the dispute department. Next slide. This is the types of issues we can deal with, and I call it issues because it's embedded as issues in terms of our CSOS Act, and it's embedded in Section 39 of the CSOS Act. It's the financial issues. For instance, incorrect, unreasonable levies. There's no insurance on a scheme. An audit needs to be done. Levy collections for rentals. If you, for instance, are the owner and you have a tenant and the tenant pays his rental into the body corporate's account, but the owner doesn't pay levies, what we can issue an adjudicator is a rental attachment order. It works wonders for an owner to start paying his or her levies. Behavioral issues, very difficult. We deal with pets and parking. We deal with children sometimes, and under it is also noise and illegal structures. Governance issues, anything pertaining to the rules and regulations of your scheme. Meetings in respect of the conduct of AGMs, SGMs, any type of meeting like a trustees meeting, a directors meeting. Management services, it pertains to the managing agent's contract and the terms and conditions, and they adhere to this contract, or a managing agent can bring a member to the CSOS stating that the members are refusing to abide by the legislation and their terms and conditions. Private and common areas, repairs and maintenance. And then we have general and other issues, lack of access to information. If you've been restricted access to your complex, that is what you can do. And then we have the intake department and disputes, where they take in the application, the data capturers capture it, the preliminary department, where they go through together with the regional ombud to see whether this application will pass the test of Section 39 and whether it's within our jurisdiction to take it on. Thereafter, it goes to conciliation. We're quite passionate about conciliation. It first must go to conciliation before it goes to adjudication, because the majority of matters are settled via conciliation. Then, if it cannot be settled by conciliation, it goes to adjudication, and this adjudicator has got investigative powers. So he or she can appoint a compliance investigator to investigate the matter further before they hand down their judgment. And all our adjudicators enjoy the same indemnity as a judge in the High Court. I have to advise you, it is free of charge for the dispute resolution process. And at the end of the day, you can get an adjudication order that might possibly be enforced through the High Court. This all for R0. It's free of charge. We have received a couple of judgments in the last week where the courts have referred matters back to the CSOS, and where they said, do not come to the courts directly. There is a regulator. They have the same powers. They enjoy the same powers. So rather submit a dispute if you have to at the CSOS. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And that is my presentation, and that is my details. If you would like to give me a call, or email me. As I said, this presentation is also currently with YIPA. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to Advocate Mkhize also again. And really from my side, impressed with, from initially reading about CSOS, it was very much, from my understanding, a reactive organization, in the sense that it was really focused on governing and ensuring that community schemes are operating and managed appropriately. It's very encouraging to find that you guys are actually very proactive in pushing the transformation agenda, and I think it talks to what Advocate Mkhize touched to in about how chat. I'm very encouraged to hear that CSOS is really, doing something about it, and in your own way, in your own sphere of property. So that's my 2 cents. I will jump into these questions in the chat box, and a trend I'm seeing in the questions is really trying to figure out where or how do you guys offer your training and education to individuals to become your executive management agents. I don't know who would be better to answer this question between our two speakers, but whoever's more comfortable, just jump on and yeah.
I'll give Johlene to deal with that. Thank you. Johlene?
Thank you. Thank you, Luciba. Thank you, Advocate. So if I understand the question correctly, sorry, the sea is a bit noisy in the background because we're right on the sea in Mossel Bay. So it's about how do you contact us with regards to training specifically for an executive managing agent? Was that the question?
It was really, yes, how to access your internship or your learnerships or your training opportunities. There aren't really, some of them are specifically asking about the executive management agents. Some of them are just specifically, what are these internships are you referring to? Are these as,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you for that. So first and foremost, I would like to separate it and perhaps just say in general, if you need education and training or awareness of any type pertaining to the legislation with community schemes, you can give us a call, you can email me, and we'll gladly get you on board. With regard to the internship and the executive managing agent, if you would like to know more about the executive managing agent, just pop us an email. We'll advise you of the requirements. We are most probably, after speaking to Advert, we're going to post another advert because we would like as many previously disadvantaged individuals to be managing agents at the end of the day. And that's what Advocate spoke about with the transformation fund that is currently still with Treasury in order to see what is going to happen there. Because once that document is approved, we can move forward. We can say, but this is our internship opportunities. This is our opportunities for individuals who would like to become managing agents at the end of the day, you know. And so definitely keep in contact with us. Email us and we will keep you updated as to that document. But for general training and anything, you're welcome to contact us and we will assist you. Thank you.
That is a nice segue into a question I have myself about the transformation fund. You guys said your transformation push is more towards trying to choose more carefully how you guys do your procurement. That's my question, is exactly what do you mean by procurement? Are you referring to the managing agents only, or are you speaking to how the schemes are constructed and developed and also operated, and the procurement that goes into that? Who's up for that question?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Yeah. No. So there are two segments to this. The first is that when it comes to procurement that I spoke to earlier on, the 40% women, 20% youth, and 5% people with disabilities, that is in relation to internal procurement within the CSOS. So we've got a procurement plan for the year that covers a wide range of issues, you know, from supplying, you know, water to cleaning, security, whatever it is, you know. So there's quite a massive procurement plan. And from time to time, if you visit our websites, you'll see our tenders section. There's a tender section there, which basically would guide you in terms of the tenders that have become available in ICT, in a number of areas. So that's the one segment in terms of procurement. And in that area, we're saying we need to have young people operated and owned entities, women-owned operated entities, you know, people with disabilities. So that's internal procurement within the CSOS in terms of its programs and operations. The second segment, of course, is the one that deals with the issue of the managing agents that I spoke to, and that's where the transformation fund issue comes in. And that's where we are trying to encourage people from historically disadvantaged individuals to take interest also in the business of schemes management, and to then structure themselves and become eligible for participation in that area of property management, because it's quite a wide area. So you would be responsible for ensuring that there is good and appropriate governance for the scheme to which you are allocated. And of course, this takes some marketing and getting into contracting with the various schemes, etc., etc. This is the reason we have now partnered with your big entities such as your Trafalgars, Pretos, and mid-cities in order to try and create avenues where they can, for example, if you've got a Lusiba Moko's entity, they can actually go and say we are actually underwritten or supported by Mid-City or Trafalgar, and therefore we have got the necessary expertise and experience through Trafalgar or through Mid-City or whatever the case may be. So that's the practical incubation issues that we're talking about, where there is practical support. And in that instance, you would then have allocations in terms of contracts to manage the scheme, and obviously there is compensation that goes with that. So that's the second segment in terms of the opportunity around the schemes management area. Thank you very much.
That's very clear, and yes, I get it. Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Another question I have here in the chat box is specifically on NPOs, non-profit organizations, and asking if CSOS does support NPOs that try and promote property industry, the property industry as a career choice, and has associations with other stakeholders in the property sector, such as SAPOA and your Boyce's property fund. I'm not exactly sure what kind of support this person is referring to, but yeah, do you look into that type of partnership?
Sorry. So in terms of partnerships and collaboration with other areas, this is an area that has not really matured enough. But I do sit in the CEOs forum of the Department of Human Settlements. And in that forum, we have got CEOs from other human settlements entities, such as your PPRA, the former Estate Agency Affairs Board, your NHBRC, your HDA, which is your, and your SHRA, Social Housing Regulatory Authority, etc., etc. So in there, we actually compare notes and to deal with issues that are of transversal and universal importance. We, in fact, were mandated as the CSOS to actually engage with the PPRA, because in terms of their act, they have an institutionalized transformation fund. And that discussion is yet to occur, so that we could see how best to collaborate on those issues. So through the CEOs forum, we then deal with those kind of issues, but nothing has really emerged out of that at this stage, because it's still at infancy stage. But of course, as details become much more clearer, we will be very happy to share with you the outcomes of those discussions. I'm not sure if that's helpful in terms of the question.
No, I think it is. You did touch on important things that relate to it. Yes.
Right.
I do want to just go back and touch on that transformation fund again, specifically, and to ask, does the CSOS look into, or have you guys considered funding community schemes that are needing financing? So I saw you said bridge financing. Is that what you're referring to? I would assume would be community schemes that are run or operated by your HDIs. Is that the case?
Well, the bridging finance is essentially going to be in the context, hopefully National Treasurer agrees with us in this regard, would be in the context of the managing agents development program. But that's not to fund schemes that are struggling. The schemes have got a responsibility in terms of their own levy collection mechanisms to actually make themselves sustainable. And part of what they do sometimes is when they're struggling, they pass a resolution for what is called special levies. And this is to enable them to actually get in the thing, and they can raise loans, they can do whatever in order to try and create sustainability. So our law wouldn't permit us to actually go to that extent. But we would deal with issues of supporting a program of national importance, such as the transformation of the managing agents area, which is the area in which we are invested in terms of our mandate.
Okay. Fair enough. And the next question here is more in line to do with the governance of community schemes. It asks here, where can we find the judgments or orders of matters presided over by the CSOS, if there is a place to find them?
Johlene, you want to tackle that?
Thank you, Advocate. If we refer to our adjudication orders that the adjudicators make, it is all on our website. The Dispute Resolution Department has entered into a partnership with the University of Pretoria, what we call knowledge management, for the University of Pretoria to document all the adjudication orders, to list them, to categorize them, whether it's a behavioral or financial or governance issue, and then publish that, like if you know Softly, where they publish the judgments and they give a short summary of it. So that's exactly what we're going to do with our adjudication orders. And that's all going to be online on our website. If you're looking for a specific order pertaining to a specific problem, if you cannot find it on the website, please give us a call and we will look for it. Naturally, so we're taking out the names of the parties and or the community scheme, but we leave all the facts in those judgments. So please peruse our website under adjudication orders. It will definitely be there. If you're looking for some scheme governance rules or anything like that, you're glad to send us an email. You can send it to me or you can send it to sectional title at csos.org.za and we'll gladly assist you. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Thoroughly. I have one last question, unless Julie has something also to add. It's a light question in relation to the appointment of your executive management agents when a community scheme can't appoint one themselves. Do you never find challenges appointing the appropriate agent in terms of someone who not in terms of having the skills or not, but understanding the community that they are entering? Is that never an issue or a challenge?
If I may, look, with our 23 panelists are so diverse. They represent the entire South Africa. So they, from the Western Cape down to Mpumalanga, Northwest, Limpopo. So if you're in a specific province, there's a choice of who to appoint. We send you the panelists, we send you the business profiles, and then if the community scheme cannot appoint a executive managing agent, the chief Ombud will appoint one for them. We have not found challenges in this regard because there's such a big that we are spoiled for choice when it comes to our executive managing agent panel, and they're all diversified. We are very proud to say that the majority of our EMAs are Black-owned, a level 1 or level 2 BBB contributor. So that indicates how the market is moving, because if you look at the statistics nowadays, there is a lot of people of color that's buying into community schemes, and for instance, there was no transformation, as you know, that's why YIPA was established as well. There was no transformation. You mostly would find your white managing agents at the end of the day presiding over different types of schemes. So there was definitely, the cultural, wasn't taken into account and all other factors. So that's why we established this panel to cater for that need in the industry. Thanks.
No, fantastic. That answers my question actually, and yes, I like that. So I'm just perusing this chat box just to make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, here's one. It asks here if there are currently any places where they can get an overview of strategies for a managing agent operating structure. I think that's the question. If there are there's a place where they can get an overview of structures a managing agent can use in operating a new entity.
Yeah, I think the question is, one would like to know more about managing agents and how they operate and how to become a managing agent or be a startup managing agent firm. And that's exactly what Advocate said. We have signed MOUs with all the big managing agents in this country. And we've taken our EMAs 2 days ago to Mid-City in Pretoria, where we show them around and say exactly how Mid-City Property Solutions operates, their various departments, what they do. And I think we can get you into touch with that, and we can bring these managing agents on board, and they would gladly assist in that. There's not per se a structure that we can give you, because each one is different. It's a different company, but we can gladly assist. If that's your passion you would like to get into, we can get you in contact with the right people, and we will definitely assist with that. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think that's a good note to leave the webinar off on. If there's nothing to add from Julie, I would like to say thank you to our speakers, and thank you very much to CSOS for coming and just sharing with us who they are, what they're about. And I hope, like me, you guys have learned something new and actually seen another aspect to the property industry, and also another way that it can be transformed. On that note, I want to say thank you again to our spectators also, and good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for having us. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Advocate Boyce and Mkhize and Johlene. And thanks to the CIBA as well. Have a great evening.
Thank you.